Musical Talk. I'm David Kingsmill, and this is the first of my Musical Talk episodes, which I am recording from Toronto in Canada, where I moved just a week after the end of this year's Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And it is about that festival which I am going to be talking today and next week as well, following on from Thoss's musings about the shows that he saw and the casts that he met while he was up there. I'm also going to try and match Thoss's idea of theming shows. Although, bearing in mind, because of my move, I didn't have a chance to listen to any of his Edinburgh episodes until about half an hour before I started recording this one. That was the first I actually heard about the themes, so my apologies if my idea of thematics is a little bit skew-whiff. However, I'm going to start this week with the theme of small shows. And I'm going to take small slightly loosely as a definition, in the grounds that I'm putting the Drowsy Chaperone interview that Sandra and I did at the end of this episode. And as everybody knows who knows that show, it's not particularly small, having in this case a cast of 17. But there was nowhere else to put it, so it's being called small for this week. I'm also going to use small in a slightly different way to throw a spanner in the Musical Talk works. I did tell Thoss I was going to do this, but unfortunately not until after his first Edinburgh episode went out. That is, I'm going to create a second Musical Talk Pick of the Fringe. Because after Thoss had left, and agreeing with him that Newland was my choice for Pick of the Fringe, I then saw another spectacular show, and I couldn't really decide between the two of them. So Newland is my Musical Talk large-scale show Pick of the Fringe. And I am now going to do the Musical Talk small-scale show Pick of the Fringe, which I am going to award to Part A, the musical. However, I'm not going to talk about that until a little bit later, because I would quite like to finish this episode with one of the fantastic songs that gave me cause to make that particular nomination. So throughout this episode, I'm going to be conducting a few interviews. These, I feel, rather speak for themselves, so I'm not going to do an awful lot of talking outside of them. But we're going to be looking at a variety of shows indeed. We will look at Part A, a close harmony musical about a house party. We will look at Street Cries, a two-performer, two-musician song cycle about a slightly fictional and archetypal concept of London. We will look at the fantastic Modern Flanders and Swan review that was on, and we will, as I have already mentioned, be looking at the Drowsy Chaperone. However, I would like to start by going back to the oldest of these, and that is Flanders and Swan. So without further ado, allow me to introduce you to Tim Fitzhigham and Duncan Walsh-Atkins, who are taking on the roles, respectively, of Michael Flanders and Donald Swan. Incidentally, although it isn't particularly mentioned in this interview, they were at the show selling their CD at the drop of a hippopotamus, which those of you who know Flanders and Swan's work will get the references, and those of you who don't, well, why not buy the CD and find out a little bit for yourself. But here we are in the rather crowded coffee bar at the Pleasance Courtyard at the Edinburgh Fringe 2012, talking about the music and the lyrics of Flanders and Swan and the modern-day performers who are keeping their legacy alive.
I'm Duncan Walsh-Atkins. I'm the pianist on Flanders and Swan.
Tim Fitzhigham, and I do attempt to do some of the words.
And this is a tribute review show to Flanders and Swan.
Yes, sort of. I mean, we've always been really careful not to be a tribute. I think it's different from a tribute in that we are not attempting to be carbon copies of the originals.
Yes.
And I think that's something that we were very strongly felt right at the start, was that we didn't want to do that. We love the music of Flanders and Swan, and what we hope the audiences get from the show is that they come in, they see two guys who don't look dissimilar to Flanders and Swan anyway.
No, indeed.
I mean, essentially, you look quite like Swan, I look quite like Michael, you sound quite like Swan, I sound quite like Michael, just by fluke anyway.
Yeah.
So there's sort of, there are a lot of similarities. I did live in Kensington, famously where Michael lived, and so there's an awful lot of just very similar. You went to Oxford, which is where, of course, Swan went to, and so there are an enormous amount of similarities between us and them as people, but we didn't want to be like some sort of carbon copy attempted, tribute thing. We just really wanted to let the songs speak for themselves. That was what we were sort of aiming at in the beginning.
Sure.
Hopefully we achieve it, who knows?
Well, I certainly think you do. Of course, one of the differences which immediately marks it out as not being a carbon copy, which is almost the most immediate thing I noticed, is the fact that you yourself, playing Michael Flanders, don't try and come on in a wheelchair.
That's right.
You don't mimic his own physical disability,
Correct.
although you have quite a few of his mannerisms and the sort of over-exaggerated movements that he had in your performance.
Yeah.
So there is a heart to it. But so obviously it was a very clear distinction there that you're saying we're not them, we're just singing their stuff, we have to sound like them and so on.
Correct. I mean, first of all, I refused to watch the footage of Michael before we started the show. So the mannerisms are very much me, but it seems that, again, as you've just picked up, they are remarkably similar to Michael. However, with the not being in a wheelchair, Michael, of course, was famously had polio and was in a wheelchair.
Indeed.
And was an incredible disabled campaigner and was awarded the OBE. But myself, the estate, the family took the view that he wasn't in a wheelchair originally, and he would not perhaps want to be remembered specifically for being in a wheelchair. He would want the songs really to do the talking, I think.
Yeah.
That's very much the feeling that I got from his family and from the estate, and I think that's the right call, in that, yes, he was a wheelchair user, but of course there is footage of Michael Flanders very early in his life, before he got polio.
Yeah.
There's very early black and white films where Michael's got a bit part, and he'll just walk on at 6'4" or 5" or whatever he was. This incredibly tall, debonair.
I didn't realise he was that tall.
He was a really tall man. Walk on, go, here's the note, sir, and then just walk off. And you kind of glimpse it and go, my word, that's Michael Flanders. That's Michael Flanders with no wheelchair.
Wow.
And he was, I think, lining up to be quite the film star. And then, of course, tragically got polio, and
Yes.
thank goodness in a sense, because it led to the songs, which may never have happened.
Absolutely.
Had he become, the next, I don't know, Spencer Tracy or whatever. And it does, of course, it did lead to, I think, the greatest review we ever received from the Times. And it said, Tim Fitzhigham is surprisingly erect. Which I think is probably the greatest review I've ever had. That was a lovely review. I think
Excellent.
It was the Times. It might have been the Telegraph, but anyway.
And you guys obviously have quite a connection with the estate then, because you talk in your show about doing a show for
That's right.
the family members.
Yeah. I mean, it's very loose connection, really. I mean, very kindly, if there's something Flanders and Swan like going on, the nice man that runs the estate, he's called Leon, and he will invite us along as well, which is lovely. I mean, I think we've been doing the show since 2001, so we've sort of been doing it a while, and it's nice in that they do invite us to stuff, and they do like us hanging around, and because we're just, like Duncan, I started off as a fan. I mean, that's the starting point of this. Is I really loved the songs of Flanders and Swan, and I'm sure like you, Doug.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we just can't believe we get away with being allowed to do them every day. I mean, it's just a real joy. Even if you've had a shocking day, you arrive on that stage, open your mouth, sing something like the Gas Man or Hippopotamus or Gnu, and you can't help but go back to being 5 and go, I love this. I really love this.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Still sort of get that.
Did you guys grow up with it? Because I remember when I was about 4, the first 2 tapes I was ever given of musical theatre related things was a tape of Gilbert and Sullivan, just a mishmash, and a recording of At the Drop of a Hat. And I loved it at the time, and I don't think I have ever stopped it. The only time I ever stopped was when the tape broke, which was a horrible day. And I then replaced it with CDs, and I've listened to them ever since.
You've clearly got discerning parents. That's what it is.
Well, indeed.
But no, it's exactly the same. The GNU song is my earliest childhood memory, apart from swallowing paint. So that's genuinely, I don't remember much from when I was tiny, but I do remember swallowing paint, and I do remember the GNU.
Yeah.
And those two things, so they must have been around my head when I was little, all the time, I guess.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
And what brought, those, particularly those people who've purchased the Hat Trick box set, which has a little bit more about the history of them, will know the rough idea of how Flanders and Swan came to be. How did Fitzhigham and Walsh-Atkins come to be?
We worked very briefly in passing on a long-running sketch show in London called News Review.
Right.
Which is a constantly updated current affairs show, and I came in just for a couple of nights on the run that Tim was doing back in the late 90s.
The musical director got ill for 2 days, and Duncan just jumped in on the keys.
Because I'd played for them before. And then I cast Tim in a show I did for the Fringe in '99, which was Noel Coward, which is it was a larger cast. It worked very well. But Tim,
Lovely show.
It was a great show, yeah. And then we ended up, but Tim and I did our own two-hander version for Evening with Noel Coward, just a couple of times for charity events and things like that. And actually, we had an idea that we might try and tour Coward, but in contrast to what Tim was talking about earlier, the Noel Coward's estates and representatives are quite tricky to deal with.
Right.
That it just wasn't feasible in the end. And Tim had the idea of trying Flanders and Swan instead. And it was an obvious thing it was an obvious choice really because of the nature of the relationship. Two blokes with a piano doing funny songs. Flanders and Swan was an obvious choice, and as Tim was saying, both of us had grown up on it and knew a lot of the material already. And we tried it out first for a couple of charity events. Then
it was great because it was your gran, wasn't it? Duncan's granny lived in Sussex.
Yeah.
And she used to raise a lot of money for a local cottage hospital. And she had she been in the West End?
Long time ago, she'd been a dancer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but she always had the same language as a West End producer, even in Sussex. And so she goes,
Excellent.
"Lads, you must come down. I think I can guarantee you a sellout. I think I can hold the house." And so we'd all arrived down, and we did the Noel Coward, as Duncan says, first off, and then the next year. She said, "Lads, I don't think I can sell Coward again. I don't think the audience will stand it. And have you got anything else?" And so that's when we came up with Flanders, wasn't it? And we did it down there first. And it was, the hospital is still standing, so hopefully we did all right.
The plaster cutter.
Is that what we got? We got a plaster cutter, did we?
Flanders and Swan gig paid for the plaster cutter.
Nice.
May or may not still be going.
That's brilliant. I didn't know that.
Excellent.
Really
Excellent.
That's a proper bit of our history. I didn't know that. There's a lot of people with plaster taken off who would have had to walk around with plasters on permanently if it hadn't been for that gig. That's great.
Fantastic. Well, one other thing, of course, is there aren't that many Flanders and Swan acts. There's was it Armstrong and Miller, I think, did a sketch on at one point in time, didn't they?
They did a skit on it, but people actually performing the material. No.
There's very little around. So what's it like, kind of being? Obviously, in that sense, you're almost champions of the material.
Well, we're the longest running. There have been a few others. There's a chap called Stefan Benacek who's also a composer, quite a well-known composer, and he did a one-man version of it. And he's actually a friend of Leon, who represents
That's
right. So,
he's very, very tied into the estate as well. He's a great guy.
His show is very good. I haven't seen it.
I saw it. Yeah, no, it was brilliant. I went to see it because we were doing our sort of show and putting it all together, and then he did this brilliant one-man version. But I said to Duncan, I think we still have got something to offer because there's two of us, and he's very much just doing one, and he was just sitting at the piano, introducing the songs, and then playing the songs, and there was none the banter, which to me was so, the sort of badinage between the two of them, which was such a part for me of Flanders and Swan. Was obviously not there just by nature of him being on his own. Yeah. And so I said to Duncan, well, I think we still have got something that we're doing that is different from what he's doing, so I think we should keep doing it.
I don't think he toured, did he?
No,
I think he did London, whereas we did a lot of touring. Right. Anything from the big receiving houses to village halls. We did a lot of rural touring, going into village halls, community centres. So because we were bred to go places that no other Flanders and Swan act would.
Indeed. But very much in the spirit of Flanders and Swan.
Yes.
Anywhere they'd drop a hat, we'd play.
Yeah.
Which was good. We had some crackers.
Yes.
There was that one where we arrived and the piano had a mouse living in it.
Yeah. Remember that? Yeah, that was the one where you put your foot through the stage.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Oh dear.
In the middle of nowhere, I collapsed through the village hall floor, and you found when you played certain notes that a mouse flew out. That was a great gig.
There must have been added entertainment value, perhaps not planned.
Somewhere in Lincolnshire, we were the last gig to ever use that particular piano because the technician sort of
dropped it off the front of the stage.
Dropped it off the stage after the gig.
We literally
no!
And Duncan went, I think that went quite well. And then there was the sound of this piano just dropping down. And the technician just arrived and went, I don't think we'll be using that again. So we finished that off.
It is one of the most extraordinary and heartbreaking sounds, I think, to hear a piano die.
Yeah, I've heard it twice in my life.
Have you? It's a little bit of me dies when I hear that sound.
It's
There you go. Tell me, Duncan, because the two of you take the songs at quite a lick, and certainly from the recordings that I've heard of the material, you take it quicker than that.
Yeah.
Now, having got the songbook and played through these songs endlessly myself, they're not the easiest piano parts. In the world, depending upon your style, of course.
No, although I think to perform these kind of songs, you have to work out your own parts, really. I mean,
of course.
Swan was playing it how he felt it. He'd written it, obviously, and he played it in a way that worked for him. The published versions are not his original manuscript. Those were transcriptions done by his friend Leon, in fact, the chap we were mentioning earlier.
Indeed.
He published the songbook that came out in the 70s.
And at times, quite often, not using some of the flourish that Swan would put into the pieces.
Yes, well, it's a very cleverly written, very cleverly scored book because it is accessible to many pianists and also to children. I think Leon realised that probably a lot of young people. I bought it. I was bought it when I was 12 or something, and it was great because
I think I was about the same probably.
I could actually play it, whereas I certainly could not have played what Swan was actually doing, which would only have been a one-off that night anyway.
Yes.
That's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because we have had occasionally people coming up to us and going, "You've said a different word. You said a different word," and you think to yourself, "Well, Flanders and Swan sang different words most nights, and Michael would write a new verse, Swan would write a new arrangement, and so the recordings were taken over 4 nights, actually by George Martin, who produced the Beatles." A bit of trivia. And they were sort of mashed up into the record that everybody knows and think, but people that have the record are quite purist about it sometimes, and it is worth sort of saying that record is an amalgam of many
snapshots.
It is. It is a snapshot of a longer run.
Michael himself actually says, as part of the show before Commonwealth Fair, that they have to keep rewriting the song as it gradually changes. I mean, whether they have to do it as frequently as he says is perhaps up to debate. And then they had their little songs like the Great Victorian Expressway or whatever it was that were changed depending upon where they happened to be as well.
That's right.
I mean, the published versions they're interesting because they were updated for the 1970s, was when the book was published. So, like the political references are 70s, like the references to Callahan and Healy, who actually post-date Michael's death. But they haven't been updated since, so it's quite interesting looking at the book and seeing these sort of 1970s references, which actually would have been very different from the references Michael and Donald actually used, who were doing it in the 50s and 60s.
But equally, probably the ones they would have used had they been going 10 years later.
So we have to sometimes extrapolate that with some of the when we do songs that have contemporary references, we have to say, well, really think, what would Michael and Donald have done if they were alive now? What would be the references they made now? Well, some are obvious, just substituting the name of the current Prime Minister. Some are a bit more tricky.
And of course that's not something you just do with the songs either, because you carry it through to the jokes as well. And if something stands the test of time and still makes sense, then you do it as they did it, and if it doesn't, you update it. Which is what's so great about their material, I think, is it doesn't take much for a contemporary audience to understand it.
No, that's right. It's very. I think it's, and also the themes are very contemporary. You know, there's that House and Garden classic example, in that it's about basically updating your house in funky architectural and interior designing ways. Half the programmes on the television are on that very subject.
Indeed, they are.
It's still a very current theme. London buses, still in the news. You know, there's still a debate about them. They got it wrong with the bendy bus. That was hilarious. You could equally have a song about a bendy bus. You know, that would be the modern equivalent.
Yeah.
And so, thematically, it's very current, which is great because you don't have to muck around too much. This workmen who don't turn up when they say they're going to turn up and don't do what they say they're going to do is a constant current theme of everyone's life. And so it's amazing that they managed to capture in the 50s and 60s themes that are still very much. There are very few songs that we can't do now. I think we found one. It was that very clever All Gaul.
There's a few. I love that one, but it's all about Charles de Gaulle.
Yeah,
and if you don't know,
and it doesn't really make sense without him.
Yeah. There's a couple of others.
We tried doing it when I remember the way that we managed to get away with doing it is that we did the line and then made it so we had to explain each reference, which was sort of a bit. It was the only way we could get away with it, and it made make sense of the jokes and make people laugh. But musically, it really did muck up what is quite a nice, pacey.
But at the time, obviously, de Gaulle's career more or less shadowed Flanders and Swan, more or less roughly coincided with Flanders and Swan's period of performing. So he would have been a massive contemporary figure to everyone at the time. It'd be the equivalent of thinking about, I don't know, George Bush or Obama or somebody like that now.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of others as well. One we're very fond of is the League of Bedstead Men.
Oh, yes.
And it's basically about fly tipping, which is still a contemporary theme, but they keep referring to the main reference is bedsteads. In those days, people dumped bedsteads, and of course, people don't have bedsteads so much anymore.
It's more mattresses. But it doesn't.
Which is a shame because it's a gorgeous song.
It's a great song, and of course, obviously, fly tipping itself is still an issue. But the bedstead thing makes it.
One would imagine something like Excelsior would probably be challenging to pull off now as well, to a certain extent.
Yes, that's what I've never quite got my head around.
Yeah, there's a couple that. We just do our best, and the reason we take them slightly faster is also so that when we're up against it in Edinburgh, we can get more in.
Yeah,
we can actually fit more songs in.
Yeah,
and so that was very much a sort of a reason for the slightly faster speed.
Sure,
but so that we can get people to enjoy more songs. If we slowed them right down, we'd probably have one or if not 1.5 less songs, which would be a shame. And so it's sort of happened that way because just in a desperate bid to get, because the time slots in Edinburgh are so tight that you can't overrun. You get pinged for overrunning.
Yes.
So it's kind of our way of trying to, in the extended show that we do on tour, we do take things slightly slower than we do up here. Sometimes, some of them we like doing a bit faster. I don't think Ill Wind, I think, is quite nice if it's done a bit quicker.
Agreed.
Because it's quite a feat of performance to get it if you do it a little bit quicker than Michael. And it picks up the pace, and I think the audience enjoy the dexterity. Flanders lyrics, are famously dexterous. I know that's the wrong word because that's hands, but they're famously difficult to pronounce. Madeira is a classic example of a song that is almost unfathomably hard to sing. And if you can then sing that and then sing it a little bit quicker, that's a nice showpiece for the show.
And I think a lot of the time there's even an element of underestimating going on in Flanders lyrics, even to those people who do know them sometimes, because some of the grammatical things he does are extraordinary. Madeira being a very key point. I forget the technical term for it, but there's that bit where he says things as he hastened to put out
her mind and
I forget it now. But
as he hastened to put out the cat, the wine,
put out the cat, the wine, the cigar, and the lamps. Yes, and there's a technical term for that.
Yes, there is.
He's doing some very complicated things with the language.
That's right. He does. It's when a phrase runs into the next line, and it's all very, very clever.
Yeah.
And even the lines where she made no reply, up her mind and a dash for the door.
Yes.
I mean, it's just such a nice and complicated, fiendish phraseology.
Yeah.
But brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and classic Flanders.
It must have been a nightmare paring down all those songs to form particularly a 1 hour show.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, what we try and do every year at Edinburgh is we do the classics. So we do the ones that people get really angry if you leave them out.
Yeah.
And then we add in some that perhaps people don't know so well each year, so that if people come back, they get to hear ones that they don't get to hear anywhere else. And if they're coming just for the first time, they're enjoying the ones that they expect to hear and the ones they want to hear. And that's very much what we've tried to do each year, isn't it? We're sort of gradually working our way through the canon. It's been fun.
And one that's particularly I was really pleased to hear, which we discussed a couple of days ago when I saw the show, was the afterwards.
Yeah, it's lovely,
because
isn't it?
It's such a wonderful, clever piece of writing, which is at the back of the book for anybody who's got the book. Have a look. And you had rather a sweet story about this, didn't you?
Yeah, well, afterwards, I'm sure I'm right, and it's seriously worth checking with Leon, but essentially, I'm fairly sure afterwards was used at Michael's funeral. It's a whole sequence of numbers, all of which genuinely strongly relate to Michael Flanders. And it finishes with the line, "My days are numbered," which is a great joke.
Yes.
It's a whole series of, because we're all obsessed with numbers. We all have numbers for everything. "My days are numbered," brilliant. It's one of those classic things where you can see, sometimes you know Flanders got the punchline first and wrote the monologue to get to the punchline.
Yeah.
It's the same with Tried by Centre Court, where the punchline is the umpire on whom the sun never sets. And you just think he got that punchline and went, "That's great," and then put the monologue. I'm sure that's the way he wrote it. And so "My days are numbered," but it suddenly becomes very poignant if it was used at the funeral that was read out.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of their stuff is quite poignant. It's in the best traditions of comedy, in that it's incredible pathos, incredible poignancy, but disguised by laugh out loud funny.
And then they are very good at suddenly sneaking in something like the Slow Train, which it has its funny bits in the sense of that some of the station names sound a bit ludicrous, but it's a beautiful piece of music.
Now the irony there is that they took Slow Train faster than us. We take Slow Train slower than them. So there is a bit of give and take.
Indeed, yeah, absolutely.
Because they really hacked Slow Train along.
Yeah. One last thing, we were talking before this started about sort of audience reception. Obviously you guys said that your audience is quite Olympic sensitive. You were hit by it in the first week, but how have the audiences been reacting to the show? Because I mean,
great.
The one I was in was fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, when the Olympics stopped, it was like somebody had turned on a switch and suddenly the audience turned up again. It was quite the most extraordinary thing.
Yeah.
And not that they were terrible when the Olympics were on. I mean, we still sold out, but it wasn't consistently selling out.
Yeah.
So that sounds very demanding and awful. It's not meant to. It's just, it's a popular show.
Yeah.
It's a popular show, and rightly so. It's a glorious set of songs to listen to, and so it's been. I think the audience was Olympically affected. Since the Olympics, they bounced back. We're fairly happy with how it's selling now, I think we have to say, and the reception has been as it always has, really. Ever since that very first show we ever did for your gran to buy a plaster cutter, the audience at the end of that was on their feet, and they've never really stopped, and that's lovely, because they love the songs, and as long as you don't muck the songs up, everyone's a winner.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, I'm sure you're very busy, so I will end by saying, well, quite frankly, here's a 5-star show, and if these guys are touring anywhere near you, go and see them. It's absolutely fantastic. And I think for a quote for the show, I think the only thing I could possibly come up with to fit this one is to call it a priceless bit of old England.
No.
Because that's really what it is, and I think it's both the legacy in terms of the songs, but also the fact in the performances as well, and the sort of the bringing back almost of Flanders and Swan to the stage in yourselves. So thank you very much indeed, both for the show and for the chat. And I wish you all the best for your last performances.
Yeah, we are on tour. We're going on tour, and the information will be on flandersandswan.org.
Well, there we have it. A fantastic modern-day review based upon the music of Flanders and Swan. Incidentally, for anyone who was interested, the technical term I was desperately trying to think of in the middle of that interview was synlepsis, which is defined on Wikipedia as being where the relations among words are emphasised not necessarily by ellipsis, or the 3 dots, but by a change of meaning or grammatical function from phrase to phrase. Another particularly good example in Madeira, Madeira is "She made no reply, up her mind, and a dash for the door." I cannot recommend enough that any listeners who do not know Flanders and Swan's work go out of their way to find out a little bit about it. There are 2 fantastic CD sets which have been produced, one of which has 3 CDs and is in a white box, which contains both of their regular review shows as well as the additional songs that they had written, which were, I believe, about to form a 3rd show before the untimely death of Michael Flanders. There is also a 4 CD set in a black box, which includes several of the same songs, but different recordings, and as you heard in that interview, they change some of their performances every time, so you are not buying the same thing again. But this also includes a real rarity, which is the early recordings of Flanders and Swan, and some of the songs which have not been heard before by modern audiences until that CD was released. So plenty of opportunities there to go and discover this fantastic music. However, moving away from Flanders and Swan, I now want to turn to one of the larger discussions I had, which was about the musical review and song cycle Street Cries, written and performed by Mitch Farrell along with his company. Now, Mitch has very kindly agreed to let us play a couple of songs from the show, so I will start with something rather more upbeat, which is the opening number, Street Cries. and at the end of this interview I will play another of those songs. But allow me to leave you with the musical stylings of Mitch Farrell and Street Cries.
In the market squares and alleys you can hear them selling what it is they have to sell. On the internet and TV you seem so near them as they lean across and offer you a smell.
It could be holidays or houses or cosmetics. Could be ready meals, detergent or a date. They'll be ready with a grin, enticing you with a spin to sign away your money and your fate. Street cries, hollow street cries, on the billboards and the subways and the towns. Street cries, empty street cries, promising a paradise of flowers. Street cries, nasty street lies, along the motorways and dark and night canal. Street cries that will haunt you, street cries that will taunt you, street cries that foretell a living hell.
In the avenues of Kensington and Chelsea, in the alleyways of Walthamstow and Bow, there are figures in the shadows to remind you the city centres look alike wherever you go.
Be a gambler, be a devil, take your chances. You've got Luca, now's the moment, let him below. Listen to the voices, you're so spoiled for choices. Spend and spend, consume and grow.
Street cries, hollow street cries, on the billboards and the subways and the towers. Street cries, empty street cries, promising a paradise of flowers. Street cries, nasty street lies, along the motorways and dark and night canal. Street cries that will haunt you, street cries that will taunt you, street cries that foretell a living hell.
Street cries, on the billboards and the subways and the towers. Street cries, empty street cries, promising a paradise of flowers. Street cries, nasty street lies, along the motorways and dark and night canal.
Street cries that will haunt you,
street cries that will taunt you,
street cries that will mock you,
street cries that will shock you,
street cries that will shake you,
street cries that will break you,
street cries that foretell a living hell.
I'm Mitch Farrell, and I'm with Between the Lines Theatre Company, who are presenting a musical cabaret, which is basically a potted musical in truth, called Street Cries, and I'm the author, the composer, the lyricist, and one of the performers.
Very multi-talented indeed. So I've just seen this production, which was happening at C+2, and it's quite an extraordinary piece, really, because, as you say, it's a potted musical after a fashion. It tells the story of a variety of people who live in the town of Logadum.
Yeah.
It's a sort of contemporary setting. You've stated in the programme it's sort of based similarly on Undermilk Wood, so it's got a little bit of inspiration, but all of these people they become real people throughout the course of this piece. There's a lot of personification going on in this, a lot of description. There's some beautiful description in this. What inspired you to write something of this nature?
Well, Logadom is obviously a semi-mythologised London, which is partially disguised because it's a mixture of real place names and imagined place names.
Indeed.
But I suppose the original inspiration is having lived in London. The secondary inspiration would be liking Dylan Thomas and the way he wrote, which is in that modernist vein with which I also associate a kind of line of James Joyce and E. Cummings, and coming right up to the beat poets, I suppose, and Allen Ginsberg and people like that, which is a playfulness with words, just playing with words. So that's what I'm attracted to. And I just thought, wouldn't it be naughty to kind of mix the two, like into a kind of undermilk London, with a sense of irony of transposing that notion, that playfulness from a 1950s Welsh fishing village, which is slightly idyllic, but with lots of hanky-panky going on, obviously with Organ Morgan, etc.
Yes.
So there's, even within Undermilk Wood, I think there's quite an intense undercurrent of sexuality and village politics, if you like. And I just tried to play a little riff on that idea, but it's now London from dawn till dusk. The dreamscape, again, those characters that I would call, I mean, in some of the reviews we've had, obviously some reviewers have got the notion that they're a bit stereotyped. I think that's missing the point. What they are is archetypes. So it's a bit like saying your cheese is a bit cheesy, to say that any archetype is going to be a little bit stereotyped, because that's the point.
Yes.
It's not naturalistic. So they are archetypes, and hopefully and they have to be recognisable fairly instantly, because each character has probably 4 to 5 minutes on stage to present, to make a point, to sing, and to go.
Because this is a 50-minute production. You don't have the luxury of being able to take 10 minutes to set a character up before they have their sort of key song, if you like. You do have to present them straight away. Yeah,
and hence I wanted to do it in that poetic way, where you can be fairly direct and go for the jugular with that playfulness of words, and just but to keep the interest, because you're not going to be able, you can't take 20 minutes to be subtle about presenting Chelsea Girl in a rounded way. It has to be fairly has to be very to the point. And so I thought that's an interesting, just as in Undermilk Wood. I mean, you could say the characters in Undermilk Wood are slightly stereotyped, but again, they're meant to be. There isn't much that's that subtle about Organ Morgan, is there? Do you know what I mean? That's the playfulness. Yeah. That's the point. And what's important to me in the piece is the connection between the characters, and that's where the piece, I think, and one reviewer correctly picked up, it is didactic, it is political, it is about the position of each of those archetypes within the system. So you've got the old man, the Essex girls, the Chelsea girl, the city boy, the suburban couple who've got lots of bills they can't meet and can't pay, etc., etc. So it and the homeless couple. So within that dawn to dusk 1 hour, you locate the characters in their place in this city, that where obviously we all cross paths at some point. You know what I mean? So,
well, in many ways it is. I mean, as you say, it's dawn to dusk on the day. It's a cross section of a city. And I mean, you get that. Obviously, anybody who knows London will get that London is a heavy influence on the piece. Yeah. But it is. You've got the emotional. Obviously, there's all the emotional content. There's a lot of sexuality under it. There's a lot of. I don't want to say pain. That's the wrong word. But there's a lot of darkness behind these characters. I mean, very few of these. Not meaning this to put anyone off, because don't be put off by it, but not many of the characters are particularly happy people.
No.
And even if they see themselves as happy, their lives are, there's the slightly optimistic girl going for the job who's talking about taking ecstasy.
Yeah.
And so there is that darkness behind each one, and then obviously there's the archetypal nature of their being as well. It's a cross-section of a city.
Yeah.
And I think that what actually this show's done really well is it's given you the opportunity to sample and to actually dip into the sort of lifestyles that you may see and ignore, or may not come into contact with in whatever shape or form, and presents them and says, well, look, here's another type of person, and these are the people who are all around you.
Yeah.
Which I think actually makes it, in its almost heightened approach, gives it a sense of reality, and gives it a sense of something where you can really ground yourself in this world, even though it is slightly fantastical.
Well, it's nice of you to say so. Yeah, I hope so. I hope it's like that they're recognisable. I mean, you said about the happiness. Probably the happiest couple are the totally hedonistic, materialistic city secretaries, the Essex girls, inverted commas.
Yes.
You're just out for a good time.
Absolutely.
And there's probably a reason for that, because that's what our society is geared to. They're bound to be the happiest, because that's the way everything is channeled.
And how everything seems to be measured as well.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a show with an attitude. I'm not trying to be balanced. It's completely unbalanced. I would actually prefer that somebody came to this show and got the point of it, but disagreed with every single word I said, but at least they got the point of it, and then we could have a good chat in the bar afterwards about where we disagreed. It's meant to stimulate.
Sure.
It's not meant to relax you in some way and feel, I've been, because I have been totally unfair to lots of characters in this, probably, but that attitude is meant to stimulate a discussion, and actually somebody said to me, like, he heard a couple debating afterwards what they had liked and what they hadn't liked, in the characters and things that came up, and I think that's exactly the kind of reaction that I want. I want people to go out disagreeing and maybe a little bit angry at some of the things I've done, because that's, to me, that's fair enough. It's meant to do that. It is, because there's a little bit of my own anger in there,
Fair enough.
For example, the treatment of the elderly and the character, the retired war veteran.
Yes.
And I am angry, and I do find it ironic and hypocritical that generation, who basically won the war and without whom none of us would be living remotely like we do, have come in for such a poor deal.
Yeah.
Sort of in terms of
that piece actually resonated with me very much, because I think
good.
I'm very much in agreement. I want these stories to be continued. I think it's important that they are continued.
Yeah.
And there is an element of ignorance. The other thing that particularly struck me about this production is your use of words, which is something that you've highlighted a couple of times, because there's a lot of metaphor, there's a lot of description. It never feels like... What it actually feels like it's doing is conjuring what you're talking about, because you don't use a couple of cliches, but they're deliberately there. But the things stuck in my head, like the diesel blue night, or being as cool as a car crash on fire. There's a lot of this very abstract phraseology that you've used, and indeed one diatribe, one might say, that it is delivered warping almost every other word that actually comes into it. So obviously wordplay is something that you're very fond of utilising, and do so very well.
Yeah. Well, as I said earlier on, I'm a big fan of that playfulness with words, which I think, I think there's a lineage which you can... Well, perhaps it's there in nearly all authors up to a point, but there are some for whom it almost epitomises them. I think you could say it of Dickens, you could say it of Joyce, you could, as I said, the beat poets, Ginsberg, people like this. It's enjoying language for its own sake. But I also think it goes beyond that, because I think we dream in poetry in a way. And what poetry does, for me, what the definition of poetry is, in a way, is that elision of that juxtaposition of things that you wouldn't expect. So you can take two images, like you say, cool and the car crash. Well, to me, that's very close to what we do in our dreams. It's like that classic thing in a dream where you're seeing a face, but the identity is somebody else. Or
Yes.
or you could be in what should be a very hot atmosphere, but it feels cold. Or within dream, we play with reality in dreams, don't we? And of course, Under Milk Wood, the first portion of the book, like in Street Cries, begins with a dreamscape where people are dreaming. So you can slide into that poetic feeling. And I just think that when you deal with language like that, the audience is forced to deal with it. They have to do this kind of interpretation as each line comes. Some people say it's too thick and fast, it's a bit much to deal with, but okay, come back another night, or I'll sell you the book or something like that. But I don't
give
think
it another go.
But it doesn't have to be if you just go with the flow. And it's one of those things where perhaps you don't have to pick up every metaphor or every line. It's got a feeling to it, and you get into the feeling of it. And
Well, I know I picked up a couple and I thought, wow, that's amazing, and realised I'd missed one. Because you're concentrating on the one that you've heard that you've really liked.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is, you've struck a really nice balance with this, because it's possible to come across, forgive the phrase, as being rather masturbatory when you're actually using that level of language, and this doesn't come across that way at all. I think I would say to anybody who sees this show, the ideal way to experience this is just to lie back like you're in a bath and let it all hit you. Because it's the most, for me, I found that a very easy way into the window to actually look at what was going on.
Well, great, exactly. I think, and the music, I mean, I don't think it's a constant tirade, that's the thing. There are passages like that, and then hopefully there are passages which are just dialogue. There's a few where you've just got dialogue or just a normal pattern of speech, and then you've got the songs and the song lyrics. So it's not like you have to keep up in a marathon. It's more to do with the narrative links that are in that fashion of the poetry, I suppose. That said, I hope the playfulness continues in the lyrics, I think, up to a point with the satire. And also the way I've written the lyrics, what I wanted to achieve was people singing about themselves. It's that Brechtian thing, like the Thrupney opera. You're singing, you are the character, but you're slightly outside the character, singing about the character. So it's not the Chelsea girl being the Chelsea girl as she would be. She's singing about what's really going through her head that she would never otherwise say.
Of course, yes.
So the songs are slightly confessional, and also just that irony of somebody sort of letting out the truth, like, and the couple caught in domestic violence, the argument between them about their loveless love life as it builds to a crescendo, and the violent husband lets out this torrent of very nasty imagery of what he likes to do in his spare time, building up to an act of violence against his wife. It starts, I think, quite comical, but it's like a Punch and Judy scene, and after all, Punch and Judy is a children's comedy based on domestic violence, basically, isn't it?
It's very true.
So it has that music hall Punch and Judy element to it, but again, it's that inner life coming out. It's that, they would never say this really, but they're saying it about themselves to the audience, like a confession. And each of the characters is a bit like that. And also, for example, the general and the politician in the tango, the reality of the relationship between the military and politics throughout the world.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about the production itself, because obviously you have 4 people who are on stage throughout this, 2 performers and 2 musicians. So it's very minimalistic, but everybody is extraordinarily varied. I mean, in terms of instrumentation, there's 2 people, and I think I counted flute, keyboard, accordion, banjo, guitar, percussion. I think that was it.
I think you got there,
but it's a phenomenal amount of instruments by 2 people, and obviously 2 performers playing a variety of characters, and all actually, I think, very smoothly transition with simple changes of clothes, just to identify, but clear enough to identify, okay, here's somebody new, here's somebody we've seen before. You're not surprised when the two girls out on the town come, there's no who's this, because they have their two handbags, and you know who they are. So how do you go about creating a production that has so much in it from so few people?
Well, I think the first answer to that is that it is performer, and when I say performer I include the musicians, performer based. So it's a very minimal stage, so everything comes from within the characterization, and again they are archetypes, so it's not like we're trying to create a fourth wall here or some kind of naturalism. It's very much stepping into the character, and then instantly you must know who that character is, almost like a mask show or a puppet show. It's got that kind of instantness, instant quality. That's what you're looking for, which is a very Brechtian thing. It's that, I know that's a bit old-fashioned now, and I don't know that he's that flavour of the month, but post-war, I mean, the Berlin Ensemble sort of knocked the socks off of the whole of Europe and America when they first emerged post-war, with this notion of a theatre that doesn't try to be real, inverted commas, or naturalistic, but in a way I think harks back to an almost medieval tradition, Commedia dell'arte, or the travelling players of medieval times, the miracle plays, that kind of thing. It's very much instantly quick costume change. Now I'm the devil, now I'm an angel, now I'm...
And I was just about to say, actually, it's an adaptation of almost a Harlequinade. Because you had your four couples in the Harlequinade. You looked at what they were wearing, you knew who they were, and they adopted the character of that person. And, hey presto, there's your performance.
Well, the final line of the penultimate song is "Life is a Masquerade," which is sung by the husband who's wandered down to Soho, and in a rather nasty, ironic joke has picked up his own wife, and they the couple I talked about earlier, Punch and Judy couple, have finally consummated their romance, but without knowing that one was the prostitute and one was the customer in Soho. Which is a nasty joke, I know, but it is itself a metaphor, if you like. And again, that last line, "Life is a masquerade," this wearing of masks. And again, you could say that about the piece, that what each character is intended to do is to reveal behind the mask what's going on in their heads before they pop the mask back on. You could almost do it as a mask show, I suppose. There would be another way of doing it, but we do it with coats and hats, basically, coats and hats. But there is this element of masquerade about the whole thing, and that's one of the points of the play. It's a comment on the masquerade.
Yeah, it's almost both an emphasis and a contradiction of, was it Oscar Wilde, who said, "Give a man a mask and he will tell you the truth." And at the same time, these people are telling this truth behind the mask of being in a theatre, and yet what they are essentially doing is taking the mask off and going, "Hi, look at me, this is who I actually am, even if I don't admit it to myself."
But importantly, it's not objective. It is the author. It's the author's attitude that is there, which brings me back to that point about, this isn't intended to be particularly balanced or fair or rounded or subtle. It's there's an attitude behind each monologue and each character, and it's meant to be there because I'd like people to come out and talk about the issues that are raised, and perhaps like some of the things I've said and not other things, but it's meant to stimulate.
Well, I think it definitely succeeds on that ground. I definitely came out sort of thinking to myself, I don't think none of the characters is particularly overly likeable, in the sense of they all have their flaws and they all have something. I think every one of them has something that you can relate to and something that you can take against them. Which I think is what gives them that both the fact that you get that conversation afterwards and the fact that you get a superficial presentation of an extraordinarily deep character, because you do have that 5 minutes, and yet that 5 minutes is actually revealing somebody who could talk to you for an hour without repeating themselves quite easily, which I think is so I think it's very much succeeded in being one of those shows that's going to be a talking point for people who come to see it. And I like that kind of theatre. I like coming out and not being entirely sure what I think about some of it.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully. For example, the war veteran and his sad little ditty and monologue about he's basically headed for a rather unsatisfactory nursing home and currently lives in a tower block surrounded by hoodies. It's followed by the hoodies, who again are ironically singing about themselves, which is followed by the pomp and majesty of what goes on in Whitehall and Westminster, where, which I think is almost guaranteed to offend a certain portion of the public. I don't know, but the point being that what I'm satirising is the pomp and what I regard as the hypocrisy that. And I'm happy to say that because I'd be happy to talk about it. Somebody else may take a different line and think that there's a place for this ceremony and that perhaps we still need all these weapons because it keeps us safe or something like that. Whereas my stance, and it is a stance, I think it's clear, is that building up weaponry, like the general says, never again until the next one. And after the First World War, there was never meant that was the war to end all wars until the next one.
Yes.
And now we've had the Second World War. Well, when's the next one? And it's almost like we're building up for that. Well, we are building up for that because there's more weaponry in the world now than there ever
If there wasn't
was.
going to be another war, we wouldn't be creating it.
Yeah. And my experience of genuine war veterans that I've met is that they genuinely would not want our generation to experience what they've experienced.
Agreed.
That those people actually genuinely did perceive what they did as a war to end war.
Yes.
And so it unnerves me to some degree that we take on these ceremonials almost with a celebratory tone. And I think that worries me. That worries me. And even on a simple level, as several commentators have pointed out, actually, the militarisation of royalty this is very new. I mean, Queen Victoria did not wear a military uniform. This is very much a 20th century thing. It goes back, I think, to George V and then George VI. And these kind of pageants, in the popular imagination, it's almost like they've always been there and they've always been like that. Well, it wasn't always like that. And so this conflation of royalty and military, which is, after all, a conflation of constitutional politics and military, is not necessarily a healthy thing. We have to think about this.
Sure.
Where are we going? And so I've addressed it in the play in fairly in-your-face satire, the language, which will offend some people. It will offend some people to say Prince Stiff Lip, meaning Prince Philip.
Yes.
But it's a joke. Some people can take a joke even if they don't necessarily agree with you. But it just seems to me that that kind of pomp is ripe for satire, and we're missing that satire if we take it all too seriously. And even more than that, there has to be a place for that satire in a healthy society. You've got to... power needs to be subverted. That's what the best of democracy is, I think.
Yes.
So you can share the joke, you can hate the joke, you could be offended, you could laugh with it, I don't know. But I still feel the joke needs to be there. And a joke that I would not like and disagree with. People... I'm obviously a bit lefty. Well, people can take a mickey out of people being lefty. It's not going to bother me. It makes the world go round. It's what we should all be doing, but in the right spirit.
Sure.
And I'd rather have satire than gunfire.
Agreed. Well, I think this is a show that kind of sums up variety. Really, it's. I think there's a lot in there. There's a lot in there in musical style, which I haven't really even begun to talk of. But I'm conscious that, unfortunately, I have time limits on these episodes, and I can't make it too long, which is a shame because I would love to go on. But there is a great deal of musical style in this, and I think that. Well, let's touch on it very quickly, and I might have to do a bit of trimming to make it fit.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, you have used quite a lot of inspiration from different. You've got your tango in there, which varies from the folk song that you hear at this point, or the kind of the upbeat sort of beat poem come rap that you get at points, or the hoodie songs. So obviously the style in each case serves to emphasise the way in which you are telling that particular story. What inspiration have you drawn on for your music? Because it is so varied.
Well, if I can quickly think my way through it, I can probably tell you very quickly. The opening is klezmer influenced. It's the Street Cry song, and it's meant to sort of encapsulate, if you like, the East End Jewish sound of. After all, the title "Street Cries" is the market cries like cockles and mussels or any old iron, this kind of thing, epitomised by, the Jewish population in East London on the Barrows in Commercial Road and Brick Lane and in that area. The second one is the only genuine love song between the homeless couple, so that's got a kind of musette waltz flavour to it. The third one is a kind of is a jazzy number with a little nod and a wink to Lionel Bart, and again that East End Jewish thing, and the things ain't what they used to be, back to the old, that kind of tradition, and Oliver, that kind of musical. Then waking up in the morning to a rap. It's a funky rap with shades of Ian Dury, which is again that sound of London and the city. Yeah, I think that takes us into the old man's. I'm not quite sure. No, the City Boys is ironic. It's an Irish jig because Hackney is right next to the City of London, and I can imagine that some of these very rich city people wandering into an Irish pub in Hackney and actually having a really good time, which is what they do. They wander in, just imagine them wandering into Biddy Mulligan's or something. And it's a play on that. A lot of Irish songs refer to the boys. There's the boys of Donegal and all this. And we also talk about men who work in the city as boys. Interesting, isn't it? Why boys? They're grown-up men. So we talk about city boys. And
in fact, that was often the indication of becoming a man, wasn't it? It was the translation from living at home to going to do your job in the city.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, it is. Great irony. Anyway,
sorry. So I'm playing on the words there with city boys and giving it that Irish flavour. If I can remember correctly, it's the tango. Well, that notion of a tango, a duel, it's very sexy, and so it does make a direct allusion to the war with Argentina and the Malvinas, and that the more modern militarisation, which I think one can date back to the 70s, creeping into the 80s, and Iraq and Afghanistan and so on and so forth. Then towards the end of the show, the Chelsea Girls slightly mournful pop song, and again a music hall pastiche in Soho, where one can imagine Bud Flanagan and Chesley Annan perhaps singing Underneath the Arches. Well, this is Moon Over Soho, and it's a sort of a little duet between the prostitute and her customer in Soho, before the final rap at the end, and tying it all up with the street cries, where the summation of the play, where the characters finally cross paths, and we have a riot on the streets because the cash points have failed to produce any cash. Yeah. And which is pretty close to what could have happened a few years ago with the meltdown. Yeah. And we had riots all over London in 2011. The question is, are they going to happen again? And which is what the play is asking the question: is this system sustainable? If we want to avoid a bit of a catastrophe staring us in the eyes. So, amongst all the comedy and the playfulness and the music, there's a serious point I'm trying to make with the final summation of the piece. And the musical influences, a whole mixture of stuff and styles, but that's what a modern city is. That's what London is.
Absolutely.
You go around London and you listen to the music coming out the windows, you're going to hear Cuban salsa, you're going to hear reggae, you're going to hear a heavy metal, you're going to hear a rap, you're going to hear an Irish music coming out the Irish pub.
Absolutely.
It's what a big city is. It's a whole,
and particularly one that is as cosmopolitan as London is in terms of both its ethnicities and its influences and
But I think the reason why not London, why Logadom, why Logjam, whatever you want to call it, why mythologise it, because in a sense it's about modern life, and any big modern city. It doesn't have to be just London. It's just that London kind of, if you like, typifies so much of And of course you've got the financial centre, which you don't have in other places.
And particularly those who know London's intimacies as well. There are those little bits and pieces where you can find a little sample of a life that you didn't necessarily know London contained before.
Yeah, which is the beauty of it.
Yeah.
But also that all these people live cheek by jowl, you know. Dulwich next to Brixton.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
you can wander. You turn a few corners and suddenly you're in a different world. So that Gary Flashbastard, the city boy, probably lives just down the road from Arthur Ringworm in his tower block. You know, Wapping. If you walk around Wapping, you know you'll see those fantastic riverside apartments, and across the road, not on the river, without the view, you'll see the tower blocks where Jennifer Stretton would live, counting her unpaid bills, or Arthur Ringworm might live on the top floor, unable to heat himself. So, yeah, the play has an attitude. It's about inequality.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Street Cries by Mitch Farrell. A wonderful little experience, I think. And indeed, I think I'm going to give that to you as my quote. To sum up this show is a wonderful, haunting experience. And I want to use the word experience because I think that's what you should do with this. And as the 0.4, or in this case the 0.5, unfortunately isn't an awful lot of good, what I would like to do with this one, if it's okay with you, is say that I thought this was a 4-star show, but with 5-star lyric and book writing. Because I think that is what really hit me with this. Very kindly, Mitch has agreed to allow us to play one of the songs, so I'm going to have a think about that when I get home. And now, listeners, please enjoy one of the songs from Street Cries.
I fought in the war, I received a commendation. I risked life and limb for the sake of the nation. But now that I'm old, they've stuck me in a room that smells of old greens, and there's nothing but gloom. Sedated on drugs by a great big TV screen, till the day that I die and I'm finally free. But where would you be without old folks like me? We fought and we died to keep you free. So without us, where exactly would you be? I paid all me life, me tax and insurance, believing that I'd get a fair pension and health care. But now that I'm old, they've stuck me in a room that smells of old greens, and there's nothing but gloom. Sedated on drugs by a great big TV screen, till the day that I die and they get rid of me. But where would you be without old folks like me? We fought and we died to keep you free. So without us, where exactly would you be?
Well, you heard Mitch and myself discussing that during the course of the interview. That was Where Would You Be from Street Cries. And if you like the sound of what you heard, or you'd like to find out a little bit more about those discussions that Mitch and myself were alluding to in our interview, I recommend you check out www.betweenthelinestheatre.co.uk. And there you'll be able to find out a little more information and hear some clips from a couple more of the songs from the show. Now, to keep my alternating pattern going, from a new production to an established show being put on at the Fringe and the Drowsy Chaperone. I went to go and see the very last performance of this production with Sandra, who our Musical Talk regulars will know, and we managed to speak to one of their producers. One note about this interview: listen very carefully if you're planning to bring a show up to the Edinburgh Fringe about 15 minutes in, and you'll hear an exceptionally good reason why you should be on your game at all times throughout the Edinburgh Fringe. For these guys, got something of a surprise visit.
My name's Matthew Gibbons. I'm one of the co-producers of The Drowsy Chaperone, which has been put on by the company USOG, which stands for Edinburgh University Savoy Opera Group. And this is our maybe 10th or 11th year at Fringe, and for the last 6 years we've been selling out, getting 5-star shows, so luckily we managed to continue that trend this time.
Well done. And I am here with
Sandra,
who is a regular to Musical Talk, as everybody knows. So we came and saw this production last night, and
first of all, we need to say thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last night, yesterday.
The rest of the cast we are not going to see today.
We assume they're alive.
Yes, we wish them very, very well, and we'll try and donate large quantities of aspirin, because last night was in fact your last performance here, which apparently went on for about 9 hours after the show finished. So yes, we may see somebody pop in, and if we do, then so be it. But yeah, so this was your final production, and very, very good performance, I might add.
Thank you very much.
I mean, actually, firstly, what the decision to bring the Drowsy Chaperone here, because you were saying last night this was something you'd wanted to do. It's in a way almost a made-for-Edinburgh show, in the sense of it's an hour and a half long, minus the Nightingale in the middle. And therefore it fits in perfectly with that slightly longer Edinburgh slot.
We're very pleased actually that it was proposed, because we open proposals, the company opened proposals, and then people come in and do it, and so we had various options like Little Shop of Horrors and stuff like that, which obviously Little Shop of Horrors needs to be big, and so that's one of the reasons why we chose the Drowsy Chaperone, because we knew it could be just right down to the very basics, like we had just a gramophone table and a chair as our set, and so we knew we could take it right down. And it was just the fact that we knew if we could take it down with this as the music, it sounded great. And just the premise of the show is that it's all coming out of a gramophone, so you don't need it to be huge. And I think that really added to it, actually, the fact. I keep on saying I wish we had a bigger budget and a bigger theatre so we could see what we could have done with it. But at the same time, just doing the minimalistic stuff just seemed to really work. And I was just amazed at it. I'm so pleased that it worked out the way it did.
You were in Paradise at St Augustine's, so you've actually got a reasonable sized space off the bat. For those who don't know the venue, it's a converted church, and so there's quite a lot of floor space, but also the raised dais is available to use as well. So you've got a decent size. You had a cast of, I think, 17, including the super, who only pops in very briefly at the end. A band of
6 or 7. We're condensed from about 15. Our MD, Andrew McDivitt, did a great job condensing it all down with the band members. So some of them were playing 3 or 4 parts, and then they're just sort of taking the most important stuff out of that. So that we were very lucky with that. But we were quite worried, because although it's quite a big space, the band is in a bad area. It's sort of lopsided, and we were just worried about overpowering. And I think sometimes, depending where you sat in the venue, I think we did overpower singers occasionally, but it didn't come across too bad. I was sitting at the top nearly every night, and you could hear pretty much everything. So
it's a difficult space, because last year I saw I Love You Because there, and my big complaint was the fact that the band was too loud. Funny enough, where we were sitting, I thought at a couple of points my complaint was that the band was actually slightly quiet. But I think that's an effect of the venue. And I think probably it maybe applies more to the drums, which I think, unless I'm very much mistaken, was an electronic set.
It was an electronic set, just to save space and time.
And it's all on mic as well.
Yeah, it was all on mic.
So the sound in this venue is very peculiar. But actually, I thought you coped with it remarkably well, because it is very easy to overpower that venue. And you're right, there were a couple of bits that were a bit tricky to hear the singers. But I thought you got the balance on the whole reasonably well.
That's something we were trying, because we knew that it was a problem, because we've been there I think 6 years, so we know the problems with the sound and stuff. So that was just one of our biggest things. Was we've got to keep the bands slightly down. But thankfully, we've got powerful singers, so
sure.
They managed to do it.
Now, one of the things about this show, of course, is that it is essentially a show of stereotypes.
Yes.
For those who don't know the history, this show was written in the mid-90s and was actually a present for a stag party of Bob Martin and Janet Van der Graaf, who coincidentally happen to be the names of the lead characters. Funny that. And it eventually came off Broadway in 2006 into the West End in 2007. However, the point of writing the show was to write something that harked back to the 1920s. And so you have basically a cast list of stereotypes.
Yes, hugely.
How do you... Well, now, obviously, you weren't performing in this particular one. You have performed previously.
Yeah.
This is your first time producing them. We'll talk about that momentarily. But how do you prepare a cast to play a character that is an absolute stereotype without the cast member being an absolute stereotype?
Yes, that's true. And in fact, Aldolfo, who is the European, I think he's meant to be Spanish, he was our only American cast member.
Oh, really?
And we cast him in a role that was the only non-American role.
And your logic here was what?
He was hilarious in the audition.
No, fair enough. No, he played that exceptionally well.
Yeah. It's a very difficult. We were very lucky. The people who auditioned, we were just blown away with the talent, and we were turning away good people from the roles. And our director, Becky Clark, she just sort of sat down with them and just explained what she wanted, and then we just played around. And sometimes it was just completely over the top. We just sort of sat down, we told them to ham it right up, and then just sort of brought it back. And a lot of the time it was them, the performers. We just can't. It's just brilliant, because I've worked with a lot of the performers before, performing with them, and the sort of, not the improvement, but the way their talent just came through. It was just amazing. And Becky was just ham it up. She never said take it down, until sort of the very end, where we were like, actually, you can't take it down a bit because you are very ridiculous now.
Sure. And what did they do to prepare for this? Because there were a couple of performances that struck me had been inspired by the existing cast recording of Drowsy.
Yes.
But there were several in there that weren't. And perhaps the easiest one to pick out of those was actually Aldolfo's performance, because it would be very easy to copy the what that he says on the recording as being the standard thing, but he actually didn't do that. He took his own.
Again, playing around, I know a lot of the cast, including me, watched the Broadway version of it, which is on YouTube. So that was kind of on play constantly. And then Becky suddenly went, I don't want you to do that anymore, just because she didn't want everyone to be constricted by what they saw.
Sure.
That's kind of what I do when I get to learn something. I like it the way it is, and I don't like changing it around. So a lot of it was kind of inspired by the Broadway version, but I think some people just played around with stuff happened in rehearsals that was just funny, and so we just decided to keep it in.
Sure.
Or it just happened by accident over a period of time. Which is kind of the best way to do it, I think.
How long were you in rehearsals for?
We started in May, had a break for June, came back in July, just so the cast got a bit of a holiday.
Fair enough.
So 2 months. And then we did all the music before the break, and then came back and did a 4 week of blocking and getting everything choreographing and stuff like that. So it was quite intense, but the cast loved it. We loved it.
Fair enough. You're actually one of the companies I haven't bumped into on the Royal Mile. Have you been out there much?
We have been out there. This week we haven't been out there in force as much because we were starting to sell out, and we do have millions of flyers left. We did a few stage performances, but a lot of the time you're on the mile, and if I'm on the mile and I get flyed in some of the ways that people fly me, I just decide not to go and see the show because, well, that was a rubbish way. Do you want a free piece of paper? No, I don't really want a free piece of paper.
I've got 14 other free pieces of paper.
Oh wait, because we had I don't have it on now, but the Drowsy Chaperone jumpers. A lot of people came up to us and started talking to us about the show and how they love it, and so they would take a flyer from us. So we kind of did passive flyering, where we would go and talk to people who we thought would be interested, but a lot of people came to us, and it's the first show I've ever done where people will come and take a flyer out of your hand and go, oh, I really want to come and see this. So it sold itself to a certain extent because of the old following, but then I think word of mouth managed to get out. Our reviewers who some of them came in on night 2, didn't publish their review until quite late. But we managed.
As is the way in Edinburgh, unfortunately.
But we managed to do without that, which I'm really pleased about.
I suppose this is one of the benefits of doing a show that is known over bringing up something new. Is the simple fact that you can play on its history.
And it took a bit of a while to get standing, and people go, the Drowsy Chaperone are in song. But after it cottoned on, then it was...
And it's one of those peculiar shows, isn't it, that is extremely popular, but not an awful lot of people have actually seen it.
Yeah, I mean...
Either by choice or by simple, it hasn't been on. Because it's not done terribly often.
The West End version sort of flopped as well, didn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of amateur groups do it, but I don't know if it was on last year. I can't remember seeing it in the programme. I'm sure I probably would have gone to see it.
All American High School did it 2010, I think.
Right, okay. I wasn't up here then. But it's not done all the time. And it is, in many ways, an ideal Edinburgh show also because it is, yes, you have the focus on Robert and Janet, but it's featured ensemble.
Yeah, there's loads of people in it, and we kept on realising we forget that it was sort of lots of little bits, like there's all of the couples, and they all have their little turn, so everyone gets done. There's no, obviously Janet is kind of the main role, and Matt and Cher, because he's on stage all the time, but it's kind of spread really nice and evenly, so it's great to get as many performers through the Fringe experience as possible.
Sure. Now, Man in Chair must be a very, very different experience, because he sits there.
But it's all acting though.
Yeah, it is.
He acts throughout the entire thing, just sitting there.
But I think the big challenge of his role is if you take the concept of show, don't tell, he blows that completely out of the water, because he basically sits there and spends the entire show telling you what is going on.
Yeah.
Obviously very well written, because he's absolutely hilarious, but that must have been an interesting role to develop, because he has the potential to torpedo the show if it's not done well. In this particular case, it was done superbly well.
Yeah, we're so happy with how he came through. Obviously, all the rehearsal periods is a journey that everyone takes on. He was just huge. The journey from what he started with, which was really great, and he had the campness and he had the persona, but to manage to sustain that for the whole hour and a half and just keep everyone engaged and just stop everyone, and the action just stops, and the whole focus of the 110 people in the theatre is on him. And
there's an awful lot of pausing for the ensemble cast, standing like that.
a lot of freezing, which I hate freezing. We've done it before, and they did it in hilarious poses. I don't know if you saw the Drowsy Chaperones.
Yes.
Jess Barker's massive wide open face. Andrew was phenomenal. We couldn't have asked for more from him, and obviously we can't do too much. We can just go, this is what we need you to do, and try and help him that way, but he just managed to do it perfectly. We were so happy with him. In fact, he was he won the USOG Shield, which is for the cast member who just gives it their all, goes up and beyond the Call of Duty, because he was there doing all the flying and everything as well. But just his stage performance, we were blown away by it. It was really good. And he says that might be his last uni show, because he's doing law. This is his final year he's going into. He went out on a high.
He certainly did. Yes, all credit to him for that. And now this is your first year coming up as producer. You've performed in the past, but you've come up this year and you've taken on the mantle of producer along with another newbie and a more experienced executive producer. What has that experience been like for you?
Latterly, it's been really good. I've loved the experience latterly. It's been quite stressful. I haven't been, because we had co-producers, because we weren't all going to be around all the time. So I was away sort of in July during the manic rehearsal period. But before that, it was securing the rights and everything. And we actually, after we got the rights, 30 minutes after they phoned us and said, you've got them, someone else applied. So it was very close. So we're very, very pleased we got them. So there's sort of various stresses before. But that's not too bad. I quite enjoyed that, all of the logistics of getting the venue and speaking to everyone. And then it's kind of the hard part of all of the rehearsals, finding a rehearsal space in Edinburgh. And then come the show, most of it's ticking over quite well. You just have to deal with emergencies, which aren't great. Second last night, Ronan, who plays George, the best man, had been throwing up all day and was really ill think he was actually going to manage to perform. So Ewan Moods, the other producer with me, was frantically reading the script, just ready to go on because he was that bad. But amazingly, he had some miracle Calpol. It looked like Calpol. I don't think it was Calpol, but had some miracle juice and just managed to pull it off, which is another phenomenal performance.
Kudos to him.
And especially because he does a massive tap dance, freezes, and then hits high G or A or whatever it is, and straight off. And it was just amazing to see. Humbling. I've seen all of the performances, and every night I've just gone, wow, I can't believe that these people are that talented. It blows me out of the water. I'm really jealous.
Fair enough. And what have you faced any points in this? Because obviously in your role, it is all the admin stuff.
Yes.
What's it been like actually stepping away from that performance? Have you been sitting there thinking, I wish I was part of this? Or were you actually...
Yes, I do majorly wish I had been in the show. But then again, I got to see things, like I said earlier, you see the audience more, and I saw the audience reaction, and the audience would come up to me afterwards and say, oh, that's the best show I've seen at Fringe, or oh, that really topped off my day. And we had various people come in like that, and also the writer Lisa Lambert, Tony Award-winning writer of The Drowsy Chaperone, emailed me out of the blue, oh, I hear you're doing The Drowsy Chaperone at Edinburgh Fringe, can I come along?
Wow.
Whoa. Yes. Did she? Yeah, she did. She flew over to Paris. She was in Paris for, I think she might still be there, but she flew over from Paris and then flew over to Edinburgh on the opening night. Wish it could have been a different night, but luckily the opening night was quite good. Flew over on the opening night, introduced herself to me, we sat her down, she watched the show, said hello to the cast, and then said that it was the best amateur production anywhere in the world she's seen of The Drowsy Chaperone, and that it reminded her of when they first started it in the Toronto Fringe. So that was obviously when they were trying out all their material and stuff.
Excellent.
And to have that kind of top 25-star reviews, really, like, it was
understandably
brilliant.
so.
And it just set the cast off on a massive high. We did go out with her after the first show, which we probably shouldn't. We got home about 4 o'clock, but it was just topped off the whole performance, and everyone just was buzzing after that. And
of course,
actually, the writer likes it. We're doing it right. So it's brilliant. And she said that there were parts that were getting laughs that never usually get laughs, and she was really happy, and that just made us brilliant. So that's probably my highlight as producer. And as a cast member, I wouldn't have had as much interaction with her before, and I wouldn't have noticed. It was kind of a surprise we sprung it on. So
before or after the performance?
Just before.
Oh, that's hard.
Yes. So
there you go,
they knew about it.
Break a leg.
But I was kind of just astonishing. The whole run has just been astonishing. It's just been my first Fringe experience, although I've come from Edinburgh, I've never really been in the Fringe or anything. And just being like the writer, the great cast, great show, audience loving it, because it's a funny show.
Yes, it is.
And I think that really helps. We were talking about this, and if you're doing a serious show, it's harder. You've got to do really, really well to get the audience engaged and stuff. But because it's a funny show and there's something in there for everyone, the people just start laughing, and then it's just from the first laugh, it's just kind of, it's easy, and the show just gets more silly from as old those seasons. So it's great.
I think it's a great concept because you can have those silly and stupid songs and stuff because it's part of the show.
Yeah,
he's listening to this whole thing, so he comes and says, this is a bit bad. Don't listen to the lyrics.
The lyrics are terrible in this.
And yet they wrote those lyrics.
They wrote the lyrics to be terrible, and it just makes it a really clever show.
Yeah.
But you also get the reflective moments, like at the end when he's talking about his marriage breaking down and stuff like that.
How old is he supposed to be, the character?
We're not 100% sure. We were sort of going for Silver Fox, slightly greying, so 40s, 50s.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure how old he's meant to be. I love the manager. You really do.
It's a spectacular role.
Yeah.
And what is the sort of age range of your cast?
I think the youngest is 19. The oldest 21, turning 22 shortly. Actually, Ben, who played Underling, he's a PhD student, so he's slightly older, but he's the oldest in the cast. But everyone else sort of is from, we had first years, people who just come out first year through to third, fourth year.
And they play parts that go from sort of 20s up to...
Yeah, up to, well...
I don't know how old she's supposed to be,
It's a really old lady, so...
Yes.
In fact,
well, the two of them actually, underling as well, are probably 60s.
Yeah, and
if not older.
Caroline, who plays Mrs. Cottondale, she went up to one of the staff members to ask for a glass of water at the beginning of the show, like just before everyone came in, and he sort of double took and was like, "Oh, I thought you were an actual old lady."
She does play very well.
Yeah, her mannerisms were just kind of taken.
And it's all
kind of taken on.
Body posture.
Yeah. I was just Becky's really good for getting that kind of stuff out of people, and just even from the auditions though, it was just, wow, that person is Mrs. Cottondale, that person is Aldolfo, and we could tell. And even the Janet and the drowsy chaperone, Jess Barkley played the drowsy chaperone, and Ross Ford's Janet Barber. In my mind, they were set from the moment they walked in the door, but they had a very grueling sort of sing-off, you could call it, that went on for 3 or 4 hours, where we were just putting them against each other to see who could deliver the best, and then from that we worked out that, well, the way I thought was best. So I was right all along.
Well done. But there are some very difficult. Janet, particularly the end of show.
Yeah,
she has to hold that note for a hell of a long time.
Yeah,
really does.
Andrew McDivitt, the MD, who was a brilliant MD, one of the best I've ever worked with, and he was just great for bringing the best out of everyone. And they were saying that Eric Geisfeld, who played Adolfo, said his singing confidence has just come on so much. Apparently he couldn't, because he said, I can sing it high. He couldn't hit those notes.
Really?
But Andrew managed to coach him up to hit the high notes and the silly no notes. So it's good.
What's next for you and for the rest of the company?
Well, we've just closed proposals. USOG is primarily the Savoy Opera Group, so we primarily do Gilbert and Sullivan shows. But the Society's 52 years old now, and they used to do one massive Gilbert and Sullivan show. Now we've branched out to doing one show in November that can be any show, one show in March that is GNS show, and then a Fringe show if it's possible. So we've just closed proposals for our November show. That we'll be deciding what that is in the coming week, and then it's Patience, and then hopefully another Fringe show. We've got quite a big turnaround. Sort of 6 weeks, and then do a show, 6 weeks and then do a show in semesters. So yeah, I don't know what it's going to be yet, but we've got lots of proposals. It's very exciting. Don't know if we'll top the Drowsy Chaperone, but I'm very pleased.
Let's see what the other writer thinks of the new show.
Yes, we'll try and get that one along.
Indeed.
It's definitely a bragging right we got that. Well, and the writer came to see our show. What have you got?
Anyway, well, best of luck.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for coming out.
No worries. Thank you for coming to see the show.
Well done to everybody for a fantastic performance.
Really
good. And from the ridiculous to, well, the ridiculous. The Drowsy Chaperone was a fantastic production, but I alluded at the beginning of this episode to one that I thought was better still, and vied with Newland for the title of Musical Talk Pick of the Fringe. And that is Part A, the musical. Now for this, I have a lengthy discussion with both the two writers and also with two of the cast members, and I'm going to leave it to them to discuss with me in our interview a little bit more about this show. But very kindly, as Newland did, they actually permitted me to leave my dictaphone in and record one of their performances, and therefore we have a couple of live recordings for you to enjoy. You'll hear throughout the course of this interview that I refer to a song which I heard on the Royal Mile and which firmed up my decision to go and see this show. I had intended to go and see it because it was something new happening at my venue. But, having heard this song, it wasn't an intention, it was a determination. This is Beer Goggles from Part A.
As you step on the welcome mat, your hopes are dashed in seconds flat. A disappointing evening looms, you linger by the door. Scan the room from left to right, not one attractive girl in sight. If only elephant in the room was just a metaphor. It's not easy to ignore. You've already had a few, why don't you have a couple more? I can guarantee the view will be better than before. It's the universal truth that I'm afraid afraid you gotta ignore. Bear goggles will get you more. When a bubbly personality just isn't enough, and larger than life is a little too much, then you need a shot of courage by the name of Dutch. Now you like her, I thought as much. So wave goodbye to your standards. Cheerio, bye bye. They were only bringing you down, 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 down. So now you're starting to see beggars can't be choosers, and that's why you need big goggles. Now the superficial attitude should not be endorsed, but the lady in the corner clearly looks like a horse. If you're looking for affection that you won't have to force, big goggles, but of course. So what you think of her now, boys? Now I don't mean to woggle. So what you think of her now? She could be a supermodel. Oh, finally you can see beggars can't be choosers, and that's why you need big goggles. Well, what would you give her on a scale of 1 to 10? 3, 6, 9, 1. If the scores don't measure up, my friends, it's time to drink again. So see it down, look around and let your vision blur. The beast becomes the beauty, and the beauty of it's that this beast is leaving here with her. Beer, beer, beer goggles, make your dreams come true. Till tomorrow morning, that's when you wake up, see what's lying next to you.
Hi, I'm Jack. I am one of the writers of Part A, and I also play guitar in the band.
Hi, I'm Freya. I'm the co-writer and director, and I play piano in the band as well.
Hi, I'm Jay, and I'm a cast member.
Hi, my name is Johnny, and I am also a cast member.
Excellent. Well, I saw the show last night. It's running for 2 weeks at Surgeons Hall, so nice and easy for me, which is great. And basically, what we have here, if you'll forgive me dumbing it down for a moment, because it's just the easiest way to describe it, is House Party the musical.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
With a much better name than that. I always wondered, I was thinking about this actually before I came to see it. How do you pronounce it? Is it Part A or is it Part A?
I generally say Part A, I think, but
I presume that's kind of what it was aiming at.
It was kind of like you guys kind of said it was a pun between the party, the Part A, and also Part A being the first thing that you guys had written, so it's a kind of play on words.
So this is a first time show for the two of you? Well, damn. That's a seriously accomplished bit of first writing, and I genuinely mean that. What? That's slightly thrown me, sorry. It's not often you see a first-time bit of writing that's actually that good. Where to start then? What gave you the mad idea? Let's face it, it's completely and utterly mad and insane and crazy. What gave you the crazy idea of actually writing a musical in the first place?
Actually, I was at the Fringe this time last year, and I happened to be at a house party, but on this more rarer occasions I was sober, and so I was just taking it in with quite a clear mind for once, and I thought, I've been surrounded by shows as well, I was kind of like, I could do something with this, we could make something of it, and then I just told Jack about it.
This year all the people at the house party could come and see themselves on stage. No.
That's a lot of the feedback we get, actually.
Everyone sees themselves and says,
actually, funnily enough, you have essentially got here a series of archetypal house party characters, which actually, let's face it, haven't been taken that much further, other than the fact that they burst into song randomly, which, to be fair, a fair few house party guests probably do. You haven't really taken them that much further, have you? So obviously, I'm presuming you saw quite a few, or at least if not at that one, at house parties in general, have seen quite a few big characters to inspire these guys.
Yeah, they're mainly us as well, a lot of the time.
Yeah, especially a lot of the awkward characters in the series. Certainly based on real life.
Some of the drunk dancers as well.
Yeah. Drunk dialing.
There's just so many that are relatable to anyone and everyone.
I think that's what makes this show really, really good as well, is that it is so relatable, and like you said, the characters are relatable, like, someone has one of those characters, or if not more than one of those characters that are in the musical.
And I think what's so great about this one as well is the little nuances of their characters. So you have the girl who is presumably pretending to be sober, I'm assuming she's not actually sober, saying, "I'm not drunk," down the phone, talking to an ex.
Yeah.
And that in itself, you know, there's your archetype. But she then goes and pours the contents of a bottle of vodka onto a load of cornflakes. And, you know, I've seen people do something similar to that. And it's the little bits in this that make it, it's actually a very real musical, isn't it? And that's a general question, because obviously that must make it, it's a little easier to tap into for you guys than some heightened characters, and at the same time easier to write, because you've got all the material there whenever you go and get people drunk.
I think that's what we've been commenting a lot on like when we're on the mile, and saying that it's all writing, it's all how they've directed it and everything, because it makes it so real for us.
Yeah, definitely. Like when we were rehearsing it and when we heard the music, because I mean when we were cast, we didn't know much of the music. We were cast into it, and then when we heard all of the music and everything, we started getting rehearsing. We were like, oh yeah, that time. Yeah, I can understand that. And then as it collaboratively came together, and we saw other songs as well, because we didn't always rehearse together.
Sure.
We were like, yeah, I've been there. I've seen that girl doing that, and I've seen that happen, and I've been that guy. And that's what everyone has said to us in feedback as well. They were just like, I was just saying, yep, I've been there. And it's just great. That's just what makes it accessible.
Yeah. We always say with that one character who talks crap at the party, everyone always says, I know that guy, everyone knows that guy. And if you meet someone who says, I don't know that guy, then it's you.
It's one of those absolute certainties in life, isn't it? People say the only guarantee in this world is chaos. I think the only guarantees in this world are chaos and someone at the party who talks rubbish constantly for several hours.
Me. Yeah, I mean, actually, when I was giving that song, I was like, I've never met anyone like this. So I guess that just proves the point.
So it is actually you.
What? Pardon me, just stepping away from performing for a moment. How did you guys get together and start writing this? Because obviously, if it was originally your idea from Freya from being at that party, then presumably the two of you got together at some point and you said, "I've got this idea."
Yeah,
how did that all happen?
Well, we've known each other for ages, and we both finished uni last year, and we both just heading home, sort of not quite ready to go into like a proper job. So yeah.
God forbid, proper job.
Yeah.
Not when you could do this, my dear.
Exactly. So yeah, like we just yeah.
So how did the writing balance? Did you both write music and words, or is there a lyricist and a composer?
No, generally we'd take a song away and say, I'm going to start the song on this topic. Faye would say, I'm going to start a song on this topic. We'd both go away and come back with a song kind of 75% done, and then at that point the other person could add their input. So for a lot of the songs you can kind of say that was a Jack-led song, that was a Freya-led song, but then maybe about half of them were ones we completely worked on together from start to finish as well. So it's kind of a very mixed bag.
We don't do the general, like, one person takes music, one person takes lyrics.
But we've had a few friends seeing the show, and sometimes they say, Jack wrote that song, or Freya wrote that song. And sometimes they're right, sometimes they're completely wrong. So I think,
well, actually, that's one of the things I was going to say, is it's not obvious. Because you mix an awful lot of musical styles, and we'll come on to talk about the music in a moment, but you mix a lot of musical styles in this show. And it's not obvious to someone who doesn't know the two of you. I couldn't work out what the writing process was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously I wasn't there when Thos spoke to you, so I didn't realise it was a two-man writing team, etc. It just sounds like a holistic musical, which is great. I should really stop saying musical, I should start saying song cycle, because that's what it is.
Yeah, it is.
Of course, you almost have... Well, you don't have a Greek chorus, because they don't really comment on anything, but you do have chorus elements in this, so it's not, there are people come down and sit in the corner in one song and just sit on stools and ooh and ah, and then at the end of the song they get up and they walk off again.
Yeah, so at that point they're not individual characters, they are just the party.
The mass. Yes. So I mean, we have to talk about the music, because that's what this show is all about, and that's what this podcast is all about. I spotted you in the space program and I thought, oh hello, new musical. I mean, that flicks up a let's go and see it tag anyway. But then I heard you guys singing on the mile, or more specifically I heard the three guys singing on the mile, and my head just went close harmony and a have to see this tag. Because I mean, close harmony is one of my obsessions. I love barbershop. I love, throw the ink spots at me, or whoever you like. and I'm going to love it. So that attracted me straight away. And what you've got here is it's a 10-man company, 4 in the band and 6 on stage, and it's an extremely powerful close harmony musical because it's really, really well written. And
I think you can really tell where the influences come from because Freya, you were part of the Oxford Bells and everything through your time at Oxford.
Right, yes.
There's several members
who are frequently at the Fringe, I believe.
Yes.
So here this year?
Yes.
I didn't see them, but
well, one girl in the cast is part of the Bells, one's an ex-Bell. One of the guys is also into close harmonies. I was once a member of a barbershop group myself.
I love harmonies.
And Jane,
I just love harmonies.
Jane are very, very musical, and you can just kind of tell that all of those have come together, because I mean that's what really attracted me to the show as well, was the close harmonies in so many of the songs.
Yeah, but I think as well as being a credit to the writing, it's also a credit to the 6 of you, because I mean it sounds brilliant. I was sat off to one side when I saw the show, so I was slightly off centre and a little bit at the far stage right, vanished slightly, as it will do in this is a corner space. So you've actually got audience essentially on 3 sides, because you've got, it's a triangular stage with the hypotenuse facing out to the audience.
Very mathematical.
There's no other way. The long bit facing to the audience, and then audience kind of parallel to that, but then at the 2 sides as well. And I was at one side, and I lost a little bit, but you still get the effect, and the effect was a wall of sound, essentially, and it was a very cohesive sound, which I think is what you have to have when, I mean, you guys must have thought writing this, the most important thing is we get a cast together who sound like they're one entity at times, and equally for the cast, presumably trying to sound like one entity.
I think like we sing Beer Goggles a lot on the Mile, and I think that's probably one of the most enjoyable songs we do because of its close harmony, because like you said, we sound like one entity. It sounds like it's such a powerful song to express and to belt out as well, because for both me and Johnny it's quite up in our higher range, so it's easier to get out and stuff, but it's a great song, and
it was the first song we were introduced to, like when the first 3 of us met in the rehearsal room. It was the first song that we were introduced to, and so it's been the one that we've been working on the longest as well, so we've really been able to find the blend between our voices,
and we find new things about it all the time. It's really weird, because we had one night here where we kind of lost bits of it, where we kind of thought, oh, hang on a minute, we lost bits from the previous night, but then that night we found new things, but then the next night we found even better things, and plus the things we had before. So it's a bit like we create new things for it all the time, which makes it a bit more exciting for us, and hopefully for the audience to watch and everything as well, because personally I really enjoy singing it every single time we do it.
I think the great thing about busking that song is, well, it starts with 3 solo lines. People just think it's they hear a nice song with kind of solo lines being said, and then it breaks into that first 3-part harmony, which is like a wall of sound. It really catches people's attention. They do turn around and say they want to listen.
We've had a lot of heads turning, like there's the bottom of the mile kind of thing. They've all been saying to us, guys, we can hear you from the bottom of the mile, and we're at the top of the mile. So it's like it's saying that we're carrying a lot, and we're like, okay, sorry, but that's a good thing.
It's just great when you see someone like watching a middle stage, and it might be like a play or something, and then they hear sort of the voices.
All of a sudden they just go,
and you're like, stolen.
I see your game. That's where all my audiences have been going. And actually, you've done yourselves an enormous favour there, because you have the perfect Miles song. Because you do have the surprise element of suddenly having the harmony, and you have a very powerful 3 harmony song, which is funny and has 3 guys on stage having a laugh. Essentially.
I think it's good as well that it's quite a big a big gestural number as well, because it means like a lot of the comedy doesn't get lost when you're up on the stage on the Mile when people are so far away, but then when they come and see you up close, they see more details and see more looks and more and different things like that.
As a song, it's just really great, because then you've got the big and the small, as you said, so there's just so much in it for people.
So like you said, it is credit to you guys, it is like a perfect Mile song, and you've directed it and everything really, really well, and it's all down to you.
Well,
don't shut us.
I'll repay the compliment, because when we were choreographing it, a lot of that was just the guys being like, why don't we do this here? And like kind of as a joke, and me being like, yes, we're keeping that in. Ridiculous moves
with the waving of the arms.
You right now.
In that song, Johnny did a pirouette just to show off, and then we're like, we're putting that in the show.
Oh dear, oh dear. Well, you've learned your lesson there, sir. But actually, it's good that you've got the space that you've got, because you do have, even the back row of the audience is essentially on top of you, and you've put in a lot of visual gags as well that are actually very small.
Yeah.
Which is quite a risk, really, because small visual gags either sometimes get swamped or missed entirely, and actually they work really well in this.
I think that's the beauty of them, because I mean, if you do it intentionally as an acting choice in a night and it responds really well, then you just think, well, you know, that was a choice that I made and it's so small that the people who catch the detail catch it, and then if you were to exaggerate it or make it unrealistic, then it would lose the humour. In a musical such as this, like, you have the big moments and then those like small little gestures add them in as well, and then I think if you were to make them big, it would be too much of a slapstick and not enough of a real,
because it's like you said, it's the essence of
the real situation.
So and sometimes you do get like the little reactions do get as big a reactions as the bigger like things we do, and it's so good to like sometimes improvise things on stage, because that's sometimes what we've done. We've improvised like little looks and things, and they come off like so well. And Johnny's dead on right. Like sometimes you can get reactions that you try to play and they don't react as much. I've definitely done a few. I don't know if you've done a few.
Yeah,
I mean,
if you try and play it, then the audience are going to know that you've played it rather than it coming from a real place.
Yeah, and the spontaneity of it just really is a good creative little process.
Laughing at us.
They're getting all drama school on it.
I'm from the same place.
Where have you guys come from?
We're both at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama in Cardiff.
Fair enough. Is that just the two of you, or is there more of the cast from there as well?
That's just the two of us.
The two of us from
So how did... This is actually something... Because I'm actually doing a series which is going to be coming out, listeners, in November, about is sort of how to bring shows up to the Fringe for the first time. I didn't realise you guys were a first-time company, or I'd have probably nobbled you about this sooner. Either for the first time or with one-man shows.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that a company has got to ask for the first time, or more specifically the development team of the company, is how do you pull a cast together? So how did you find these guys? Because obviously not only have you found 6 people to do your show, you've managed to find, from however many you saw, you've got 6 people who work together, and that's obviously the ultimate goal.
Yeah, well, we were like pretty clueless about it. So my first port of call was kind of, I'm going to go back to my uni where I know there's drama and there are people that would be interested in auditioning. So I just sent a load of emails out to different colleges and got people along. We then sort of expanded it further and went to Bristol, picked up Elle. We've got 3
from Oxford.
3, that's where we went
one
first.
From Bristol and you guys from Royal Welsh College.
And so we filled 4, and then we were like, what to do now? And then, because we're based in Cardiff, we were like, Cardiff Uni doesn't seem to have that much going on. That was the first thing we thought. And then we were like, well, the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama is right in front of us, but we've kind of been blind to it this whole time.
And that's where we stepped in.
And that's
But we kind of sent a clear email just to, I think, when the admin started saying, look, is there any chance that anyone would want to audition for this musical? We got such a fantastic response. I think we had about 12 guys, each of a fantastic standard.
Really,
I mean, it's so hard narrowing it down.
Yeah, it was really difficult.
Well, that's the kind of choice you hate but want.
Really want,
yeah, exactly.
Because if you've actually got, if it's difficult to weed people out, then all of a sudden you've kind of won, really, haven't you? From the outset. Great. And then I suppose it's just finding the people who work together.
Yeah.
So did you actually visit all those places? You actually went to...
we both went to Oxford. Oh, and we did some callbacks in London as well.
Right.
I went to Bristol alone. Jack trusted me with that one.
I don't regret it.
And then, we both did the Cardiff.
We've got some friends in Oxford we can stay with when we went up there. I think we just went up to London for the day on a bank holiday. And Bristol for a day, because we were working during all these auditions, so we kind of took a day off and doing it on weekends and things like that. So just kind of fitting it in as we went along, really.
Sure. Now, who particularly who's the MD per se? Who controls the band?
Who controls the band?
There's no real
band.
conductor.
Yeah, we don't have a conductor.
It's all done by looks.
Yeah, it is just it's either done by like looks or glares. But yeah.
Jack, Pugs, and Timmy have played in a band together before. Am I right?
Pugs and Timmy have, and Pugs and Timmy have.
Pugs is our bassist and Timmy's our drummer.
His name's already Pugs. It's
James.
But
we call him
Pugs. Is good. We'll go
We've known him for a long time. Jack and Pugs are old friends. They've known each other since they were about 2. And then Timmy is a friend of Pugs. So So we're all kind of just...
So all the band are completely Wales-based?
Yeah.
Right. And so to actually confirm, because I just realised I haven't said this, the band is guitar, bass, keys and cajon.
Yes.
And a bit of bongos,
and yes.
twisty
and
things and maracas and all sorts.
Yeah, little bits and bobs.
I believe that's a technical term.
He's done great percussion from like what he's
really,
got.
really imaginative.
I think that came across in some of the reviews. They said every song has a different feel because of the different kind of elements used in them.
In percussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's very true. And actually, I think more and more on the Fringe, cajon is actually becoming a frequently used instrument. Because, I mean, originally, it's sort of Cuban street music, and it was developed.
There's not many people who are using them at the moment, but they are becoming a more popular thing because, one, they're so easy to use, two, they're really easy to handle instead of having to carry so much drums with you, and it creates the type of essence of a drum anyway.
Yeah,
so,
it just sounds like it's a drum kit with pads on it.
Yeah, that's what it is basically. And
it's also the size of a small box because it is for those. Yeah, well, indeed, for those listeners again who did not hear my Wasted Love interview last year, where they also used a cajon. A cajon is essentially a box with bits stuck inside it and a hole, and that's essentially it. And it makes it sound like you've got snare, bass, and sort of various sounds depending on precisely how you hit it. And it's actually a remarkably versatile instrument. But great for a Fringe show because you guys are actually stuck behind a curtain in what is, to all intents and purposes, the backstage and dressing area, and yet you've got a 4-piece band. Which does, and again, for the size of space. How many do you seat, by the way? Theatre 1, I forget. 55. Okay, so it's a reasonable size space, but at the same time, it's small enough that a 4-piece band is more than sufficient.
Yeah.
And does the job really, really well. The other thing, of course, with this show is that you've managed to come up with a concept that really doesn't need an awful lot of set. Which is such an asset to an Edinburgh show, really.
I was laughing about it the other day, sorry to interrupt, that, like, you know how we've got sort of like 3 different chairs and then a little sort of table that's used as a chair, and at first I was kind of like, oh, maybe we should have matching chairs, and then actually I was like, oh no, that's the typical house party, isn't it, that you just kind of grab any chair from any room that you can find.
When you say chair, you assume that there are sufficient chairs. It's often not a chair.
So where the table becomes the chair or someone else sat on the floor.
I'm not going to lie, I'm scared of breaking that table.
That adds to the reality of it. It really does.
Actually, there was one point where somebody was sitting on something that was leaning at a rather odd angle.
That might have been me on that table.
I think it probably was.
Because I'm scared of breaking that table every single time I sit on it.
I tell you what it was. It was the song where I think it's the dance song where you were addressing because I was right next to you, and I was watching you, thinking there's something that happens in parties quite a lot that's about to happen here, which is you're going to collapse.
I was thinking it's going to because it could happen. And it's a good little comedy element if it does happen. But
we've got 3 more nights, so as long as it survives them, I think.
Yeah. 2 more nights.
2 more nights. Yeah.
What more nights?
It's and actually this is a fair question. Is what's it like now that you've bedded this in now? You've done 10 shows. Yeah. You've got 2 more left. What are you guys thinking now? Because last year I did 2 weeks with a show, and at the end of the 2 weeks I wanted to be here for another one, which is why I've done the 3-week run this year.
What do we want to do after? We kind of want to write something else.
Part B.
Yeah. The sequel. We need to sort of finalise and complete this one. So we need to. Well, we've got your live recording now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, which I will send you in total.
We've got some tracks, but they haven't been mixed yet. So live recording is great.
I mean, I warn you, the quality of this will be questionable, but at least you've got a resource.
Well, that's great.
I'll try and take some sound out, background noise, and then I'll send it to you.
Great. I think we'd like to take it to, if we're able to, maybe some smaller venues at home.
Yeah, we'd love to just sort of take it around a bit.
Edinburgh is really a testing ground to see what people thought of it and kind of getting a response. And if there was a target audience for it, and due to our audience feedback, I think we'd really like to take it further if we could.
And I think we want to say as well, it's an amazing show, and it's been an honour to be a part of because it's been so good. And honestly, it's been really, really good.
I think it surprised us all.
Yeah, because me and Johnny had a word at the start of it. Because we knew we were going to be a part of it, we didn't know what it was going to be about. So we always had our ears open, mind open to everything. And now that everything's come together and the show has become so successful, it's just been such a pleasure to be a part of. And like we said, we keep it new and fresh every night. We find new things, and it's just so good because we find different things about ourselves that we've been through the house
all the time. it really is incredible.
Philosophical, that one, really. Sorry, guys. I'm turning into the philosopher.
It really is incredible, though, because I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine who had been to the Fringe before, and she came up this year in the show as well, and she was like, yeah, you know, Fringe is good, you know, you've got to be prepared for those times when you might perform to like 3 or 4 people, because there are some times we're needed as well, especially if you have a late slot. And I was like, 10 to 9, it might be quite late, I don't know what it's going to be like. And then just to have the turnout that we've had, and like,
I was talking to Jay earlier, you sold out all bar one.
Yes,
I think so,
and people come up to us on the mile and say, we tried to get tickets and we couldn't get tickets, like, we really want to come and see your show, like, I've heard from this person that it's really good.
Well, I confess, I don't normally get press tickets, but I only got in last night because I took a press ticket.
Well, and that's insane. I mean, and it's a real comment, like, to the writers as well, because so many people are just saying, it's just so witty and it's so funny and the music's fantastic. And I mean, without good writing, a music will flop. Yeah. And it really is credit to you guys, and because the response has just been unbelievable. And as our first time in the Fringe and you as writers and as us as performers, it's just been fantastic.
I must admit, can I just comment here that something you so rarely hear on the Fringe, and you're getting right now, which is at the end of 2 weeks, you've still got such a team perspective on all of this, because it's, you know, I don't know where you guys are living, but you could, you know, you often, when you come up here with a group, you've got 10 people living in a flat that's supposed to seat 4, and by the end of it you're at each other's throats, and you know, it's a story that's not uncommon at the Fringe. And yet here, apart from the fact that the 2 guys are now trying to strangle each other, you know, you've still got that. It's not just a teamwork mentality, but it's also a respect, and a great deal of it.
Oh, yeah, incredibly so. I honestly, I didn't know where I was going with that. So, kind of like, what's your view now? Like, after working with Jack and Freya, like, I've loved every minute of being part of this musical, and from what they're churning out calibre-wise, I'd be very happy for them to give me a call or an email and be like, Johnny, do something else, would you like to be part of it?
Yeah. Right, so that's one cast member sorted.
No, it's just the potential that, like, it's weird to say because we know them as friends and things like that, but the potential that they've got, like, in their writing, we can see from their first piece is amazing, and we definitely think, like, your next piece is going to be greater. Hopefully not, because we want to be like the original. But no, but honestly, we can see the potential in you guys, and it's like you love it, and it's like you breathe it, and it sounds like really, really like weird and stuff, but it is great, and it's lovely to see that in you, and to create such a family like orientation in us as well, because it's been such a great blast being with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. When audience members come up to you guys and say, like, is there a soundtrack? Is there sheet music? I mean, you've just got to take that as being like, we've done pretty well here. Yeah, and to create those things, because then, you know,
you've had people who want to use our songs as auditions. I mean, come on, that's amazing.
Actually, there are several of them that would be very, very good for that purpose.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of the song cycle, they're also that nice thing, which is you don't have to try and force context onto them, because the context is in the song, which is great. The other thing that I think is so great about this is it's so patently obvious to anybody sitting in that theatre that you guys are just having fun.
Yeah.
Which is what theatre should always be about. I know people say, you know, it's your job is to be there and entertain the audience, which is true, but I think that as a part of it, you should have fun.
Yeah.
You know, everyone has a bum night so now and then and feels a bit rubbish, but overall, the experience has got to be, you come out there feeling good about it, and you guys just look like you were having a blast.
Yeah.
And I speak to the band as well.
That's why it's so great kind of having a comedy musical, because you can literally go on stage and really enjoy yourself and tell jokes and just put a bit of your character into the characters, whereas I think with a lot of kind of dark theatre pieces you have to kind of really get yourself in character,
and then to do it every night for 3 weeks or whatever. Must be draining.
It's so good. And again, it's all to do with the relatable aspect of it, I think. It's just because, like, again, you find new things, and it's just...
And the audience have a great time watching you have a great time.
Yeah, it's contagious.
And that's what's brilliant about it.
And then there are so you watch them have a great time, and it makes you have more of a great time again. So it's like a big cycle.
Everyone's bouncing
off each other. Because
really, really
when you have the little speaking bits, like, the audience are there with you, totally with you, and you have... It's weird, you have control of them as if you're a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
I mean, like, with the little speeches that are in there, I know definitely with the one before Toilet Song, what I react or who I look at, it all changes the experience, and that's something that you do differently every night as well, which is great. And a certain audience member laughing or not laughing can play against your own reaction.
It allows you to seize upon it,
exactly,
kind of
and take control and manipulate it in a different way, which is it's incredible. It's such a great feeling. I don't know who would not enjoy that.
Yeah.
Excellent. I will finish by saying that I think that this is a 5-star show, and I'm quite happy to give you a 5-star rating for this, and I've been trying to think of a suitable quote to kind of go with that, because it's nice to have a little soundbite that you can take, and I'm not entirely sure that I can find something that's actually better than simply calling it the house party you wish you were at. Because it's kind of what it feels like. And it really is. And listeners, if you get the opportunity, if these guys do take Part 8 somewhere near you, go and see it, please. And I think a great lot of performers, but I also think that Freya and Jack, you're two very new composers who I think we want to keep our eyes on.
Well, thank you.
Oh no, why me? A little matter blown out of proportion, but it matters to me. I'm not one to complain, it's just not who I am. But when I wanna take a kooky photo, I'll whip out my BlackBerry, then remember I can't get Instagram. And it's hard, it's hard, it's hard, it's hard not to give a damn. I wanna put on this new band that fresh on the local scene. But if I put on their new sound, then they will go from underground to mainstream. And I can't handle that, oh no. Why me? A little matter blown out of proportion, but it matters to me. I'm very selective. We don't want to put things in perspective, 'cause there's a whole wide world out there. But it's kind of hard to feel any compassion for the homeless when you're hungry for some hummus. I'm thinking about this pitter on its own. It's got a format.
Is it really too much to ask to get some taro masalata? I think you know what I'm after. Oh, you don't? Well, it's a thick, creamy cream tip. Here's what you should put in it: olive oil, fish roll, breadcrumbs, and oh, cinnamon. Yeah! Oh no, why me? A little matter blown out of proportion, but it matters to me. I'm very selective. We don't want to put things in perspective, 'cause there's a whole wide world out there. But it's kind of hard to care that the white rhinos are dying when you're dying for a coffee, and all they have is instant. Where the hell's the capital? Yeah. Living in the first world ain't easy. It's smiling, but it's true. When there's so much to choose from, it's harder to pick when your extravagant habits are too good to kick. When the art of complaining is your party trick, you soldier on through.
I know exactly how you feel. My house burnt down. My pet dog died in the flames. I love my dog. His name was Lucky, and he had this really fluffy.
2, 3, 4. I'm very selective. We don't want to put things in perspective, 'cause there's a whole wide world out there.
But it's kind of hard to care that his life changed forever when someone changed the mixer from Diet Coke to Pepsi. You know that really gets me. The food was effervescent,
but now it's flat. Let's go. We're done. We've got 99 problems, but our pitch ain't one.
And there at the end you heard First World Problems, also from Part 8 the musical. And so there you heard all 6 performers, the 3 guys at the beginning and the 3 girls at the end. I really must say that I do think that Jack Williams and Freya Smith are 2 composers that we really need to keep our eyes on. And that, I think you will agree, is an extremely good example of very talented first-time writing. So there we have it, 4 of the shows that I saw at the Edinburgh Fringe 2012. Join me again next week when I'm going to have a lengthy discussion with Sandra about the shows that I saw that I haven't discussed yet, about the shows that we saw either together or separately, and about some of the shows that she saw on her own. I will also be talking about Sex Ed the Musical, which was another show performing at my venue and which was absolutely fantastic. I have an interview with several of both the cast and creatives for that show to come, as well as some music from it. So, until next week, this is David Kingsmill signing off from the musings of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival 2012. Have a good week. This episode of Musical Talk presented and edited by David Kingsmill. Theme tune, copyright David Kingsmill 2012. The copyright for all other music remains with the original rights holders. I was going to ask something in the middle of that and the question has gone. What the hell was it? That's really annoying because now I've just completely blanked. Something in there I remember thinking I need to ask something.
MD,
No, before all that. I can't remember. Never mind.
Something about MD? No?
No, I don't think so.
That's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we were talking about the MD.
Yeah, well that kind of came out there.
Going to Edinburgh from Cardiff? Portability? Throwing out there.
Johnny's workout schedule. How? What? Why?
You never know.
That's what the viewers want to know about.
Exactly, Johnny's workout schedule.
Indeed.
Hi guys.
Don't start him off, honestly.
Yes, let's move
The viewers of the radio show.
The viewers of the yes, quite. Yes, there's a spectacular workout demonstration going on that the listeners would love to see but can't. Sorry.
I have 1,000 of them.